were absolutely right. And anybody who lives in America truly understands what he was saying to be true. And Barack initially addressed those issues. That the black church is different than a white church. And that we talk about issues in our churches the white folks don't talk about in their churches. Because of how we relate to this country and how we relate to the Lord. But the interesting thing is that Wright's comments were comments that were somewhat similar to Malcolm's comments 45 years ago when he said chickens were coming home to roost. Malcolm was kicked out of the nation when he made those comments. You remember that? He was kicked out of the Nation of Islam for talking about the assassination of John F. Kennedy and saying America's chickens are coming home to roost. Khalid Muhammad was kicked out of the Nation of Islam when he made comments about the Pope. Alright? So let's put all of this in context. Anytime a black person speaks out, a high-profile black person speaks out and talks about racial issues in this country, he is kicked to the curb. Alright? So, let's look at this. Wright's comments that he made at this church were right on point. But the comments that he made several weeks later in Detroit at the NAACP Convention, and then the next day at the press club in Washington, D.C., was when it became clear to most folk that Wright had lost his mind. Now let me put this in context, all right? Because anytime you're speaking before an audience, you really have to be careful of what you say and how you say it. Particularly if you are a target of the media. You don't give the media the most powerful form of mind control and manipulation. You don't give them any ammunition to use against you, or by extension, anyone who has been associated with your church, Barack Obama. So when Wright spoke at the NAACP Convention, and he talked about the educational differences between black children and white children, he raised issues that were right on point, but they were over the head of most of the people in his audience. So what was he doing? He was, in my humble estimation, he was showing off. He was showing off. Now, there's nothing wrong with doing that, but you have to do it in the right context. If you're going to talk about information that most people are not familiar with, then you need to provide documentation. You need to provide documentation, especially if your presentation is being broadcast all over the world. That broadcast wasn't just for the United States, it was being broadcast by C-SPAN all over the world. So this was his opportunity to educate everyone throughout the world. And he didn't, in my humble estimation, he didn't do everything that he could have done and should have done at that opportune moment. It was a missed opportunity because he was showboating. Got so caught up in showboating that he struck the Q pose. What kind of nonsense is that? Has this Negro lost his mind? You don't do that. You don't do that with an international audience. You don't do that. There's certain things that you do with family behind closed doors. This is family. I would say and do certain things with family, but that I won't do with the larger audience because I know that they don't look at me like you look at me. And I've got to say things to appeal to them on a different level because they evaluating me different than how you will evaluate me. And the idea is, anytime you speak to a large audience, you want to have the entire audience move with you. You don't want to lose them by saying something that they may misinterpret. So you are very careful or very structured about what you say and how you say it, if you care about your message and how your message is going to be received. The following day, when Wright spoke at the Press Club, the National Press Club in Washington, D.C., that's when he lost it. Now, he's a bright man, he's an educated man, he's an articulate man, but he should have known that he was being set up. He should have known that he was being set up. He was there in D.C. for a conference of black ministers that was being held at Howard School of Divinity. The meeting at the press club was set up by Barbara Reynolds, who is a supporter of Hillary Clinton. So they set up that meeting knowing how Wright is, knowing how large his ego is, putting him in front of his peers, knowing that he's going to cut up. And he did cut up. His talk was good, but then he went overboard during the Q&A session when he started attacking that poor white girl who was asking the question, the moderator of the program. All right? Now, he almost made me feel sorry for her. Almost. But you got to understand how other people watching this, how white folks, Hispanic folks, other folks watching that reacted to this black man beating this white girl down. That's what it was, a beat down. It was a verbal beat down. And he should have known you don't do that before an international audience. You don't do that because you're going to draw negative attention to yourself, to your church, to your parishioners, and to anybody associated with you. His ego was out of check. And he's paid for it because you have not heard from him since, have you? You have not heard from him since. And there's some stuff that has been surfacing that I don't know if there some folk are holding this for a late October surprise. But and I don't want to get into it now because I don't want to gossip. But it was because of this speech that Obama finally had to distance himself from Jeremiah Wright. Now, as he said in his first speech in response to Wright's comments about goddamn America, he said that, this is the man who married me, who baptized my children. This is a man who's like a father to me. So I can imagine how BarackMind felt trying to understand why Wright was doing what he did. Why would Wright throw him under the bus? That is what he did. He threw him under the bus. Was it ego? Was he envious of the attention that he was getting? I don't know. We'll probably find out when Michelle writes the book and tells what was really going on. But the reality of the situation is this, brothers and sisters. The racial dynamics in this country are changing. America is rapidly becoming a multicultural and pluralistic society. And black folk have to adjust to that reality. It was about 7 years ago that Hispanics became the #1 minority in the United States. Hispanics are #1, we're #2, and in about 15 years we'll fall down to #3 behind Asians. So if we have not achieved parity as the #1 minority, what do you think is going to happen when we're down in the #2 slot? What do you think is going to happen when we fall to the #3 slot? And based on census reports last month, that in 2042, 8 years ahead of their projections, white folk will become a minority in the United States for the first time in U.S. history. Hispanics will become the dominant population in this country, followed by us, followed by Asians. And if you look at the statistics, you look at the growth, the demographics of the various groups within this country, you'll see that white growth has been growing maybe about 2 or 3% per decade. Hispanic population has been growing by almost 20-30% per decade. African American growth has remained stagnant for over 45 years, which means that there are as many of us being born as there are dying. Zero population growth. And most of us are dying at the hands of other black folk, and we're dying at our own hand as a result of the foods that we put into our body. This stuff that some folk call food. We're killing ourselves. So we have to take all of this into account in order to assess where this country is going. So that racial dynamics are changing such that we won't be able to blame whitey for all of our problems now. Because they won't be in the minority, they won't be in the majority. Hispanics will begin to be in the majority. And Hispanics are, for the most part, they are, living in Washington, D.C. area. Washington, D.C. has the highest percentage of Salvadorians of any country outside of El Salvador, right? And I mean, they're coming in large numbers, and it's obvious that they're coming in was planned in order to displace the African American population. That's real clear. They're doing jobs that we used to do, or jobs that we don't want to do. And as a consequence, they are building families. They are living the American dream. They still have, at this particular point in time, in their sojourn in America, they still have nuclear families. And they still do things as a family. Things that we stopped doing a long time ago. Right? So they are moving into political arenas. And as they begin to become aldermen and women, they begin to become mayors and governors, they're not going to tolerate all of this nonsense that we have been tolerating in our community. So we need to get our act together, because this country is changing.
Very much so.
And if we want to be a part of change, there's work that we have to do. So let me look at an analysis of a couple of speeches by Wright. So let's look at his thoughts and his words. Again, if you really want to understand somebody, listen to what they